Okay, so this week I went through and I did the layout for my garden for this coming season, and I got my seed order placed. So I'm going to start out with talking about my garden layout, kind of why I'm doing this. And so just starting at the east side of the garden where there's the blueberry hugelkultur. I planted 3 blueberry plants there last year in 2024. So I'm going to try and grow fireweed, rhubarb, and chives again this year. That didn't work out last year, but I'm going to try that again. And then you can see as we're moving west along this old garden area, I've got 3 beds here. These are all 40-foot beds, 30 inches wide. And I wanted to plant a cover crop of New Zealand white clover and then grow some sugar snap peas so I'd actually get a crop of something I could sell. Well, I did plant the 2 beds in clover, but the other one I just desperately wanted for some herbs. So I scavenged that bed and planted dill, cilantro, parsley. So after those crops, I'm going to be doing greens, kale, chard, collards, mustard, and then in the bed here where it was herbs, I'm going to do leeks and onions. So you may remember that last year I did 1 bed of kale plus a partial bed, and with this new insect netting, I'm not getting as much damage from the spotted cutworm, so I don't need as much kale. And so 1 bed is going to be sufficient, maybe even too much. So I'll do that, and then in the next bed, I had more collard greens than I needed to, so I can probably make that a little smaller. I don't even know if it's worth doing the mustard greens. They do grow fast, faster than anything else. And so I have something right off the bat, but I don't know if it's worth having. Maybe I'll do a few plants or something. And so maybe most of this bed here will be chard, mature chard. And then yes, the leeks and onions. And then moving on to the next 4 beds are all in garlic already, and they're covered with a mulch of seaweed. And so because the garlic this year is out in the middle of the garden, I'm going to do like I did in a previous year where I put parsley on, interplanted on the edges of those garlic beds, because they'll get sun, on this side, and the parsley planted on the other side will get sun in the evening. Last year it was planted over by the trees, the garlic was there, and so I couldn't plant my parsley because they would never have gotten any light. They would have been shaded by the trees. So I'm going to at least be able to get some parsley in with the garlic. Moving on, I'm going to be doing carrots in these next 3 beds, and problem is they're going in after the greens from last year that were undersown with some micro clover. So that might become a problem as the little carrots are slow to grow. So I've got to think about how I'm going to deal with that. Am I going to have another weed problem this year like I did last year? So taking a look at the small greenhouses, the 10 by 20 foot 2 greenhouses here at the end of the garden, the far end. Last year I had them both in basil, and then early on I did some things like bok choy and salanova lettuce. I'm not sure what I'm going to do because I kind of like to pull out the wooden oldest greenhouse because it's kind of in the way of the new NRCS tunnel that's going to be over there. I mean, there'll be a tight fit if I leave it, and I've been wanting to get it out of the way anyway because I kind of want to have the aluminum greenhouse extended, so it's a full kind of 10 foot by 40 foot greenhouse together. So I don't know when I'm going to yank that wooden greenhouse out, but we'll see. So I don't really see any room for dill in the garden this year. Cilantro always bolts to seed, so this year's going to be a crazy year, so I'm not going to fiddle with either of those, I don't think, unless I find a room. So moving over from the northeast area of the garden to the northwest area of the garden, this is the newest soil. I'm going to plant a cover crop. That's kind of the plan for these next 2 beds that were in baby chard and carrots. And I've just been trying to think of, getting a rotation in of a cover crop every year in some of the beds. So that's the plan. And then these next 6 beds are going to be under the new NRCS tunnel, which is going to be 20 feet by 60 feet. And so it's going to fit in some Salanova lettuce and some baby greens. This may be more space than I need, so we'll see if I have any extra spots. And this space along here was mostly used as kind of a walkway. So I'm going to plant some radish, like some sort of daikon radish, in order to kind of break up that compacted soil. And then at this far end here, that'll also be covered by the new tunnel since it's quite a bit longer. I think I'm going to go ahead and do like a cover crop of New Zealand white clover and then plant the sugar snap peas again and have them in the tunnel. So yeah, so that is kind of the plan. Potato patch in the southwest area of the garden. I'm thinking where I have the soil piled up, maybe that can get spread out and maybe I can do a makeshift potato patch this year. And then in the area where there were potatoes last year, maybe I can just do a cover crop of like oats and peas. So I've done my seed order and that's what I'll talk about next. Okay, so moving on to the seed order. I had a lot of seed, or enough seed, left over from last year, previous years that should work. So I've got the crops that I already have enough seed for are in the light green. Crops that I probably won't be planting this year are in this light yellow. And then in the bright green, I've got the crops that I had to order seed for this year. So yes, I counted out my Salanova lettuce and it looks like I have plenty. I've used old seed with Salanova before, maybe a little bit less germination, but it's usually pretty good. So then the baby greens that I use with the Salanova lettuce for the lettuce mix, I really like that red tabby spinach that I got, so I ordered some more of that. I got the Fire Fresh chard. I keep going back and forth between do I just grow spinach, do I just grow baby chard, I don't know. I just got some more of that. The Frizzy Lizzy Mizuna, which is a beautiful red frizzy sort of green, I really liked it last year. It's not prone to bolt. It has kind of a nice mild flavor when it's small. And then I got some Rubia Red Orich that I normally plant in the little greenhouses. Maybe I'll plant them in the large NRCS tunnel this year, but that's nice. Those are all nice in the lettuce mix. I've got enough sugar snap peas that might go in the tunnel this year. Completely out of table radishes, so I got some of those. I usually have problems with pests getting to them and they're not sellable. But maybe I can grow some of them in the tunnel and they won't get attacked by whatever is attacking them. So I got a pack of those, but just a small pack in case I'm just using them at bed ends to attract slugs away. I like to have them for that reason. Carrots, I have enough Yaya, Giants of Colmar, I believe. Have enough kale. And then I needed to order more of the chard. Last year I had some cruddy seed from High Mowings, so I just went with Territorial and got this 5-color silver beet, which maybe has more of an upright habit than some of the other multicolored chards. So I'm going to try that again this year. Had enough collards, plenty of mustard greens, enough basil, and then enough parsley. I ordered some more chives. I planted chives last year, I started chives last year and never got them planted. And so hopefully those can go into the hugelkultur area this year. I have enough green onions. I need a little bit more leeks. I'll use both old and new seed. And I might have enough bok choy. Usually I only use that for the bed ends to attract slugs away, along with the radish seed. Or I use them or I use them in the greenhouses early to have an early crop since the bok choy does so good early in the season. And then clover, I've got enough of the micro clover, I think. And I think I have enough of the New Zealand white clover. And so the cover crops that I bought this year, that I've never tried before, are the oats and peas, which is kind of a typical cover crop. I kind of wanted something that was going to give me a lot of mass of material, so I can either cut it back or have it die back and use a mulch. I'm not quite sure how I'll use it. And I might use that in, the 3 beds in the garden, and in the southwest area where the potatoes were, maybe that can go there. And then also I got some oilseed radishes for that area in the tunnel where it was used as a walkway and it was quite compacted. Initially, I had bought these cover crops from Territorial, or I had placed the order, and they said, we can't send this to Alaska, or we can't send it to your address. And I changed different addresses and it didn't work. So when I went over to Johnny's, I was able to get those cover crops. I don't know, I had to pay a high surcharge for shipping, so I don't know what it is so special about these cover crops, but I'm getting them. Potatoes, I'm not sure. I was thinking about buying new seed this year since I had a problem with scab last year, but I do have, not from last year, but from the year before, I still have German Butterball potatoes in my refrigerator that still look fine. So maybe I'll try and sprout them and see if they'll sprout, if they're usable. Otherwise, I might have to order some potato seed from somewhere. Yeah, so that is kind of the seed order for this year. So next week, I am hoping to order the potting soil for my soil blocks, other soil amendments and materials that I might need for the coming season. Garden. I've got my hugelkultur over here. I threw some waste kale and other greens in the center section here, and then threw some leaves on top. But the deer have been going through here. And yeah, so I think I'll just try and cover those up with the leaves a little bit, and then I'm going to take some soil that I have and throw it down here. I've got all these bags of potting soil stored here in the boat shed. I was going to use these for soil blocks for next season, but I'm just going to toss out all of this stuff because I did use a little bit of this material and my starts did not do very well this year. So I'm going to switch to something different. 8 bags of potting soil. This little section covered in potting soil. That's where most of the kale was. We have had a kind of a weird winter. Like, we got way early snow in November, a lot of it. And then we haven't had pretty much any, except for maybe a little dusting here and there. It's just been either cold and clear or pouring down rain. And I've been doing a pretty good job kind of mucking out the house, but I've got a couple of big mucking out the house projects still left to go. But anyway, yes, next week, ordering supplies and things for the garden. See you then.